Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. This is a rather special gospel nugget. It's the 150th gospel nugget. That means we've been doing this for 150 weeks. As you know, I started in lockdown as a kind of little way of communicating with you, but also as a little thank you for your support. And so I appreciate that support. I'm rather glad that we've managed to do 150 weeks and not have to miss one due to illness or anything else. And so if you get some assistance or help from these, thank you. And I hope to continue. I'm sure I'll repeat myself and have repeated myself many times, but the Lord himself did that, so I think I'm in reasonable company. So thank you again. Also, the priests of the Ordinariate of Our Lady of Walsingham are giving the EWTN Lent retreat each Sunday this year. We've already had one, but if you want to check your EWTN schedule, look up that to see each Sunday of Lent. I will be giving the fourth Sunday of Lent. I'm in Jerusalem, although I'm in England because I'm recording this in England and next week's, but I'm actually in Jerusalem at the moment leading as a chaplain a pilgrimage group that's investigating life in Israel and doing some pilgrimage things, so I'll pray for you while I'm there. And once again, I encourage you to look at the website for news of the businesses we're supporting through your help. We just made, as I said last week, a rather large donation to the French charity SOS Chrétien to help in Syria, which is getting so little help. So God bless you for your support. It seems extraordinary that we're already nearing the end of the first week of Lent. I remember as a child thinking adults were very odd when they talked about time going by so quickly. If one was bored, time seemed endless, and even when things were interesting, the thought that the years moved swiftly seemed quite unbalanced. Now as the hair greys, or what hair one has greys, the limbs wobble and the brain atrophies, time moves at an inexorable pace. It's quite disconcerting. We began Lent, as we always do, and begin Lent, with the gospel account of the temptations of Christ in the desert, before he begins his public ministry. Maybe because we hear the account every year, we've become somewhat lulled by the message. When one pauses and begins to meditate, it's quite stunning. God the Son, the second person of the Trinity, is led, we are told, by the Spirit to be tempted by Satan, the Deceiver. Accepting Christ's humanity means accepting this was not play acting. However, the very fact that Satan, as the Lord himself said, has no truth in him, helps us realize that none of what the devil promised was his to give. He is and was a liar from the beginning. Yet Christ, in his sacred humanity, endured all we endure without sin. That included pain, sorrow, loss, distress, and a sensation of God's distance, perhaps even abandonment. The Lord was and is the most fully alive it is possible to be. He was, as we talked about last week, perfectly whole, perfectly integrated. The false life, the unreal life, the disintegrated life, that to a greater or lesser extent we all live, is the product of being lured in some way by the lie of Satan, however it's expressed. It is on a macro level the doctrine of inevitable progress, the lie of the creation of heaven on earth, the very lie first uttered in the garden, you will not die. From that lie, that first false promise, came the disintegration of humanity's relationship with God, only to be restored by what we celebrate at Easter, the death and resurrection of Christ. On a micro scale, the lie is expressed by all the unreality which we believe will bring us peace, security, and ultimately happiness. This is also history from the garden. We hear those temptations of Christ as we start the Lenten journey to be reminded of truth rather than falsehood. It's about rooting out the lie and living in the truth that brings all we hope for, that peace, security, and happiness that only God can give. Once again, as seems a pattern for me, I was moved by a sonnet of the poet Malcolm Guite on the temptations, which expresses this truth so well, so often better expressed by poetry rather than prose. In the poem, the devil taunts Christ, and when offering him all the kingdoms of the world, calls his life the foolish dream of love. Christ laughs and responds, "You are not what you seem. Love is the waking life. You are the dream." Lent is the time to abandon the dream and live the waking life. Brethren, rejoice, be perfected, be comforted, be of the same mind, be at peace, and the God of peace and love will be with you.